Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you. Right. Are we ready to roll, Owen?
I'm ready, man.
Awesome. Welcome back to another episode of the Prime Life Project podcast. I'm your host, Daniel James, and today I've got an absolute treat for you. I've got my very good friend, I class him as a friend now, even though it's only the second time we've conversed, my very good friend, Owen Hunt. Owen, how are we? I'm
doing wonderfully well. And I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you calling me a friend as well, Daniel, because I feel the same way.
I feel like the way that this all came about. So again, I alluded to this on one of my previous podcasts, but the way that me and you came about was just absolutely bizarre. So I was reading a book, got completely lost in it, couldn't quite understand it, came across your YouTube channel, and this guy's name's Boatsy Greenwood. And I was very disappointed to find out that wasn't his actual name. So it completely ruined it for me. When I found out his name was Owen, I was a bit disheartened. I was like, liar, that's not your name? So I was then listening to Owen's videos, explaining the chapters I was listening to, and bizarrely, in a weird way, I was then listening to him while I was sleeping, to help me sort of digest all the information I was learning. So then I started following him on Instagram and thought, this would be a really cool guy to get on my podcast. He then reached out to me and said, hey, I like your stuff. Do you want to jump on my podcast? And I was a bit like, if that is not just the universe saying we've got to talk, then I don't know what is. And then I jumped on your podcast. We had a fantastic it's a YouTube live. I've never done one of those before. That was pretty awesome. And the depth we went into, like I said, I would clash you as a friend now, because we just went all over the shop, just adding as much value as we possibly could. And it was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, you shared a lot, man. I took a lot from that. You're a master of analogy, and especially coming from like a comedic place, like that's really what it's all about, right? It's like creating images in people's heads.
So when I see you now stealing all my stuff, I'm like, when I see you on TV using all my analogies, I'm like, hey, wait, that's my material.
I'm gonna have to do an aside on my Netflix special. Like, this is actually Daniel James's material, guys. But
I mean, listen, I can put ghostwriter now in my bio. I should put ghostwriter, Daniel James, comedic ghostwriter. I mean, I'll do that. It's not a big deal.
Right. That's
so to give the audience a bit of a background into Owen. So Owen is a producer. He's a comedian, author, improviser, and he's a student of the mysteries of the universe, which is what we're going to delve into today. So in short, he's a voice whose work inspires people to question the nature of their reality through humor, love, and encouragement. Owen is the author of Beyond Reality, Discovering Your Hidden World Around Us, and he's very active on YouTube, where he where he shares insights through his sincerity and informative videos and hilarious sketches, which again is how I came about you. So just want to give you all a bit of a brief background there, because with it, I want to delve into some deep stuff today.
Okay.
And I don't want to spend too much time going into who you are, what you do, because people can find that out after the show. But can you give someone a bit of a brief summary into how you've actually got into this spiritual journey? Because again, you know some deep things. Like, you're a very, very deep human being. And again, I know that you use comedy to articulate that, which I think is brilliant, because I don't think sometimes people are ready to hear this stuff raw. So you've kind of got to hide it in humor. So how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah. So this is my answer. It's pretty consistent. Crippling depression is how I got to where I am today.
Me too.
That was it. I mean, I've always been really curious. I've always been a very curious person, and just wondering, am I being told the truth? Do I have the full, grasp on reality? And so I've asked that question a lot. And right about, I'd say, like, I graduated college, and then I just kind of had some fun. And was a raft guide and a ski instructor. We're just kind of living that life for a while. And I've been a TV producer on and off since, about 2014, but really started asking questions about like because after I got out of college, I had a certain worldview, right? Mm. And that was challenged by the actual world when I started living in the world. So I really started to question what is going on. So I started reading a ton of books. Jumped down the conspiracy rabbit hole super duper deep. And ultimately that led me to a very dark place where I felt isolated, alone, and I had to come out of that somehow. So then I started grasping for spiritual teachings, anything I could find. And really the first thing that I really clung on to was Ralph Waldo Emerson's Self-Reliance. And at that point I was at my first entrepreneurial venture as a tree farmer. And so I would listen to that. I'd be shearing, trees, and like just listen to that book over and over and over again. And that was really the beginning of coming out of that dark sort of abyss of loneliness. Because I'm very much a people person. I'm an introvert, but I love people. So the struggle's real there. But like understanding really what is going on around us, what the nature of reality is, and why we live the way that we do. It was really important to me to begin to understand that. And so as I started to put those pieces together, I just found more and more material, and it all basically was saying a lot of the same things, just a little different angle here, a little different angle there. Books like As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, all these little old spiritual self-help books that I kept finding, and I would just listen to them, read them, listen to them and read them, listen to them mostly on the farm. And then I went back to TV. We sold the farm. I went back to TV. I was doing that. And then I discovered, I was actually taking a program on like being more sociable, because I really lost my social skills. And very, very subtly was the word transurfing mentioned in that program. And he just glossed over it and just kept going. But when I heard that word, something happened. It struck a chord in me.
Isn't
and I was
like,
like,
how that happens? Because I had the same thing with me. Like and I was having a conversation with people about this all the time. When you're open and you're in that space, the universe will tell you things, but you have to be in that headspace to hear it. I was the exact same thing. I heard someone talking, and they mentioned a book to me, and it was called the Keys to Success or something like that. As soon as I heard it, I was like, I need to get that book. I don't know what it was. I needed to get that book. So same thing with you with transurfing. It's like, but you put yourself in that open space where you can be like, this is meant for me. This is hundreds of people would have heard that same thing, whizzed straight past that book, not even noted what it was, because it sounds like a bit of a weird word. But for you, that was for you. You need to get that, Owen, get that book.
Dude, absolutely. And it's happened to me before when I've walked into a bookstore, and just for some reason, like the Celestine Prophecy was one of those that just like, I saw it and I was like, man, there's something intriguing about that. Like, I've got to read that book. And that was quite a few years ago, but still it was somehow illuminated. Like for some reason it stood out. And so I didn't even finish that program. I just found that book. I found the ebook of it, and then read the first, because it was like split up into 5 books at that point. And I read the first book, and then I finally bought it and got it, and then I really started to dive into that. And that book was something that I gave my attention to for about 3 years straight up, because it really seemed to me to resolve 2 books. One, the Kabbalion, which is like the classic spiritual text of the 7 natural laws. And then a book that's like very much individualistic and about objectivism, one of Ayn Rand's books. I think it was Atlas Shrugged. And so I was like, if you could synthesize these 2 books together with a sort of mystical aspect, and then the physical world, material sort of philosophy, and bring those 2 worlds together, you would have a really workable philosophy, something that would be kind of like Hermetic objectivism, for instance, right? Yeah. And I as soon as I found that book, I was like, this does it. It really resolved those 2 worlds.
The problem is that book, it's a very hard book because it's been translated and transcribed. It's a very hard book to get your head around. I feel like you spending 3 years on it is the kind of depth you need to go to really get to the essence of that book, which is why I was drawn to you, because I was struggling with it, and you basically just summarized it for me. And I was like, well, where the fuck was this after I've just read 400 pages? Do you mean I've got like 400 pages to go? And I'm thinking, where the hell was Boats to Greenwood like 400 pages ago?
Yeah, it's almost 1,000 pages, and it's intricate, and it is very confusing. It takes a lot of patience, to get through that book, depending on where you're at. For me, I was just like, I've been waiting for this. I just consumed it. Like, I read it over and over and over again. And I really wanted to, because one of the tendencies, and I think we talked about this on my show, one of the tendencies is to just grab something, read it, not apply it, get something else, read it, not apply it, grab something else, read it, not apply it. And then you've read all these books, you've got all this information just banging around in your head, but you haven't tested it. Yeah. Right. And so when I first got that book, I was like, I don't believe half this shit, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to suspend disbelief. I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if this works. And I read it again this year, and I was like, duh, like all the stuff in there was like, it becomes second nature over time, like it takes time, but the more you apply it, it's not about belief, right? Like we don't We don't want to believe anything. That's not the point. We should know that principles are working, right? Natural law is in effect, and you can't beat natural law no matter what. You know, he has like different angles on karma, for instance, balanced forces instead of karma. So to think about it in a different way. And so it's cool to get, like, I mean, like there's all these different books and they have these slight different angles or variations or nuances, and you can resolve those and put those together and really create a workable model. You know, when we talk about reality, all we're really talking about is having a model or a menu. That's not the meal, you know, like the map itself is not the territory. And so we're trying to create something because we can't know it directly, but we're trying to create some sort of a template that we can use to apply to the world. And so that's what I've been working on, you know, since then.
I think that's the biggest problem. People's realities. People don't like their reality. They don't like the life that they've got. But the problem is they don't know that they have a choice. And that was the biggest thing for me when it came to reading that book, is understanding that you actually have a choice. And again, when you say you're in that dark place, again, myself and Mike, like we've all been there. Like we all know what it's like to be in that dark place. And you don't think you have a choice, and you think that that is now your reality. You can't see a way out. Now, people don't necessarily have to go to those depths to get that. People just, I sort of call it, they sort of like bubble above the surface. So they're just okay. They walk around most of the time being okay. They're not brilliant. They're not great. They're not actually living their life. They're just okay, and they don't think they have a choice. So this is where it's interesting with you, because you basically help people find their purpose. So what does that even look like? Because finding your purpose for me, it's like, what does purpose even mean? And how does that then help people change their reality?
Yeah. So what it even means is, like, to me, and so again, this is my map or my model of the universe that I've synthesized through, you know, looking through a bunch of different material over, I'd say, at least 8 years of time. I'd say this is my life's work, you know, as far as, like, I'm 38 years old and I've always questioned things, but I didn't really get serious about it until I'd say about like 8 years ago or so, where I was like, I'm going to figure this out, you know? And I was just talking to somebody on the phone the other day, and he was like, I want to find, you know, he's like having this, like, I got to find, what is it? So he's having this, and I'm like, dude, I totally understand that, because I wrestled with that too, you know, because for me, that's something that I have almost the most pain points around. I tried everything. I tried to be a scuba dive instructor. I tried to be a raft guide. I tried to be a ski instructor. I did all these different things, and I thought each one of these might be my purpose. I was a musician for years, became a producer. You know, so I was always looking for my identity in a role in society. And so let's start with what it's not. It's not your role in society. Your purpose is not your role in society. It has nothing to do with that. You know, in my model, it's really about finding basically like a short phrase that really resonates with you and connects you to your identity. I believe each and every one of us has an energetic like signature, like an energetic fingerprint. We're all very unique expressions of infinity. Mm-hmm. So each and every one of us, I think, you know, plays a role and has a purpose, especially in such a time as this, right? Like I was joking the other night, I was like, yeah, I'm like part of the apocalypse staffing agency, you know, at this point. But like, really for me, like my purpose, and this might sound really generalized to anybody else, but mine is to bring people joy. So that's the basic foundation of what I'm here to do, right? And I can do that in any number of roles. So I used to be a bartender. I used to be, you know, so if I'm bringing joy to whatever that role is, then I'm filling it with my purpose. Mm-hmm. So if I'm on stage making jokes, if I go super dark, it doesn't resonate with the crowd. If I'm making a YouTube channel, or a YouTube video on my YouTube channel about something, and I don't bring levity to it, and I make it super intense and heavy, it usually doesn't resonate. Like I tried to be like an activist, like a political activist a few years ago, and it just never took because of that, right? It was because of how I was delivering the material.
So is it because it wasn't in line with your purpose then? Is that why it didn't, because you weren't living congruently with the kind of person you meant to be, so that you never got the traction? The universe was like, Owen, this is not meant for you. I'm not going to allow it to kick off. Is that kind of what we're alluding to here? Because I think a lot of people get that. People keep trying to smash the square peg into the round hole, and it doesn't quite work. And they wonder like, well, why is the universe doing this? And they'll keep trying it. It's like, at some point, you have to take a step back and be like, is this meant for me? But then I think now you sort of talk about society conditioning a little bit. The problem is you're then touted as a failure. Oh, you've got to build for it. You've got to work for it. I mean, you haven't even done it for a year. But it's like, if it's not fundamentally your purpose, you can spend the next 10 years on it and it's never, ever going to work for you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so I think from there, you can build on that too. So what we learned with Sunil Godse, who has a website called Intuitionology, he studies how people's intuition works, and like how there's sort of 4 different like kind of intuitions, so to speak. And we all have each one of them, but some people are more dominant and some people are, are less dominant in certain ones, but that doesn't change. And from there we can build on that. And that blew my mind. So the next level is that I am a bridge builder. So I bring people and information together. So I've synthesized all this different information from here, put it all together. I have different friends who work in different, do different things, and I sometimes can bring them together and make something really cool as a result of that. So that's been like the next sort of layer of my purpose that's on top of that. And so I think that each and every one of us really, and I've been getting, it's crazy because I've been getting hit up from friends who are like, dude, I figured it out, and it's often something very simple, like to beautify the earth, or to help people realize their dreams, or, whatever that is. It's something though that's so sort of sacred and unique to you that whatever it is that you're dealing with, there's going to be turbulence in the world, crazy shit's going on, things go wonky, this, that, the other thing, but it doesn't really upset the balance. You know what I mean? It's not like you desire it. It's like you can really have intention when you connect to your purpose, and then you can walk with purpose and intention toward the thing. And when things go weird, it's like, yeah, it went weird. I mean, you're not going to, every day is not going to be great, but at the same time, it really does put you in a position where you are able to deal with whatever the world throws at you. You're not going to just freak out and want to retreat or like run over here, or at least that's been my experience. And I think it is for a lot of people where, yeah, I mean, today's funky, I don't really have everything going on that I thought I would or whatever, but I'm still able to face these challenges, go this direction. I'm settled. I know where I'm going. So that's a big thing, because I don't think most people even have an idea where they should be going, what they should be pursuing. It's like you said with the social conditioning, we've got all these ideas that have been, really pumped up by society and our friends and our family. And we think, oh, well, that's shiny. Like maybe I should be an astronaut. Well, everybody wants to be an astronaut, but what do you want to do? If you don't want to spin around a bunch and throw up on people, then you don't want to be an astronaut,
People like the idea.
Right.
They don't actually like the idea of doing the work behind it. And I love what you said there, because one of my questions there was going to say to you, because the way you were sort of working down there, I thought, so how do people know that they're still on their purpose when they have these turbulent days? But then you sort of said there, it's knowing that actually, no, this is still the right path. This is still where I'm meant to be going. And I think the biggest problem nowadays we're finding with the younger generation, obviously me and you are in our 30s, but again, we're talking about the early 20s. There's so much bullshit of what people should be at what age. Like, you should have this car, this house, should be doing this, having this job. If you're not in Dubai on a beach, you're a loser. But it's like, well, actually, if your sole purpose is just to be a good mum or a good receptionist and actually just help people that are a bit lost and guide them in the right direction, what's wrong with that? And you can be happy doing that, but people will be living this amazing life, but comparing themselves to this false reality. And it's just, I don't really know how to articulate it another way other than I find it very fucking bizarre. I'm just glad you pinpointed that there, the fact of just, you will know. You will know, but most people just don't know, because I don't think they allow themselves the opportunity to ask the question.
Well, again, it's really about doing the thing, and it's not, as opposed to, you can do that thing in any role, right? Like, let's say I was a receptionist for a while. That's cool. That's maybe part of my journey. I had to be a receptionist. Well, if I'm a receptionist, I can be on purpose while I'm there if I'm bringing joy to people, right? I'm on the phone, I make a joke, I make them feel good. They come in, they're happy to be there, that type of thing. There have been times in my life where I had just had to quit a job, where it was just like, I just felt like my heart was like just not in it anymore. And that those things do happen. And really what I once we find our purpose, we want to implement that in a specific way. That's super important. And I want to and that's the second stage of the work. But understanding what it is and having that idea, you can go to work at the same job that you've had for 10 years. And if you understand what your purpose is and that it's not your role or function in society, well, then you can express that, and you can actually express yourself and your own individuality in whatever role you find yourself in. And then start to work toward the role that you really want to fill. And honestly, I think for most of us, we all have multiple skills that we can roll together to become, to work into that niche. And so that niche, like a lot of people think, oh, well, it's like, dude, you're 18 years old. They're asking you what you're going to, get a degree in. And then they're frustrated when you don't know. You don't know what your purpose is. Like, how are you supposed to know what you're supposed to study in university if you don't even know, what you're really here to contribute to the world? It doesn't make sense. But
then you get a shit ton of debt for that as well. So
exactly.
The privilege of that. And then you then have to then just find some 9-to-5 job to pay off the debt, which you didn't really want in the first place, to kind of follow these guidelines, which didn't really mean anything. When you look at the system again, we're not going to fucking go down that again to a conspiracy theory. It's not going to go down that rabbit hole of education. But it's that's the thing. It's like it's just understanding that people are individuals, and we're not necessarily taught to be individuals. And people can be again. There's an analogy used quite a few times where there's a little picture on Instagram where you see like a giraffe, an elephant, a fish, and a monkey, and they're told to go climb the tree. Well, obviously, some of them are going to be really, really good and others aren't. And then if you go swim, obviously the fish can be better. But it's understanding that it's not done that way. And then you get now 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, they're depressed as fuck because they're in a shit ton of debt. They've got a degree that they now don't want to use, and they're just completely lost. And there's no sort of hope for them at all. Well, they don't see this hope. We know there's hope.
Yeah.
But it's how do you then get that across them? That's then the sort of the thing that I'm sort of hitting at. I just want to just take a step back a second, because when it comes to finding a purpose, you mentioned a stage. And so can we just talk about the stages of actually finding your purpose? What's the first stage then of that? Because I heard you mention a stage. I just want to make sure my audience picked up on this. So if I'm coming to you to work with you to find my purpose, can we just talk about the actual stages of what we'd go through with that? Because I feel like this is a massive topic. And I feel like a lot of people, they hear us talk, but they'll be a bit like, I ain't got a fucking clue where to start. Like, it all sounds good. I get what you guys are talking about, but how the fuck do I go about this? So how would you work with someone on that? What's the stages?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would talk about is reality. What is reality? Like, what is this that we find ourselves in? Just beginning to understand that as a model, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that my model is superior or better than anybody else's. It's just a model. And you can modify that model and make it work however you see it, in your world. And that's totally fine. But you got to have a workable model. You can't just like dip out and then leave the model and then come back to it. And then, you know what I'm saying? You've got to have a foundation. So a foundation of understanding how the world works and what is really going on here, starting there, and then understanding those traps, those like pendulums, these ideas, the social conditioning of what other people have basically made look enticing to you, and what those are, identifying those. That would be kind of the second step. And then the third step is really drilling down into who you are as a human being, and really taking a deep look and trying some exercises, writing exercises, writing some things down and just brainstorming until you find some things that really start to resonate with you. And that will really begin that first part. And then that first layer of purpose is, I think, something that's, when people find it, dude, they go nuts. Like I had a friend of mine who has been listening to podcasts and stuff hit me up last night, and he was like, dude, I figured out he was so excited. I was like, it was one of those long messages and that I was really happy to read, like a lot of the longer ones.
How does it make you then feel? Do you know that you're fulfilling your purpose? Absolutely. People don't understand that.
Well, it's how meta, right? But yeah, man, it made me feel so good. And like, I worked with people who are friends of mine who have been following my work and for years and come through and worked with them. And everyone's kind of like, it's worked, right? Like my model has proof of concept now. And so that makes me feel incredible. It's also like I believed in it. It's not that I didn't believe in it, but it's also kind of surreal that it is valid for people, that it does work, right? So it's kind of both of those two things at the same time.
I had the exact same thing with this though, like with my fat loss thing. It's understanding that like I'm looking at this, I'm like, I've done all this deep work. I'm like, the mindset stuff is the missing piece to fat loss. It is very obvious to me. This is where people are going wrong. But until you can then implement it and get the proof of it, you kind of doubting yourself. You're a bit like, but why has no one else come up with this? Like, why? Do you know what I mean? You almost get that imposter syndrome of, well, who am I to have this information? But it's like, well, who aren't I to have this information? Like, why can't I be the person that's helping people on this journey? Like, why not me? And I think that's in the problem again. What's that great quote by Nelson Mandela about our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond recognition. And I think that's the biggest thing. People discover their true purpose, and it almost scares them because they've got this purpose, they've got this essence. And God, it's giving me goosebumps. But yeah, I'm glad it's on video because it's giving me goosebumps. Because once you realize that, it's so powerful. Because you realize actually what scares you is the fact that you can help so many people. And that's what it is. And then you almost get a bit like some like stage fright. Again, I was laughing with these two before we started, like just chatting to you. I get nervous doing these podcasts. I get nervous because it's like, I know this is going to add value to people and I want to do it justice, as bizarre as that sounds. So I completely understand what you're saying there, where you've got this concept, it's your little baby, and now you're seeing it like flower and blossom with all these other people. And you just want that for other people. And it's bizarre.
Yeah, no, it is bizarre, but it's great, because I think the right people, have come to work with me, and we've really developed a strong relationship and a strong bond. You have like a call last night and just get to talk to everybody about where they're at and what they're doing and how things are going, and just kind of like staying up, and once again going from I know what my purpose is, which is great. That makes your life like worthy of celebration. It's like, yeah, hell yeah, I know what I'm here to do. Like I have a reason for being, and then from there, it's really about implementing that and putting it into practice in the world and in a specific, unique way that also fits you, like I had so many pain points around this. And I think that that's usually the thing that most people find that they wind up working on, is the thing that was difficult for them to master for some reason or another. And then once they do, they have so many insights to it, because like I would be beating my head against the wall, trying different exercises and trying different things out, thinking that my role in society or my job was my purpose, when really that's pretty shallow, right? Like if that's what your purpose is, that's not going to fulfill you. You're going to get bored with any job that you do over time. Like it becomes mundane if you're, and unless you can vary it somehow, right, and spice it up, then I don't think we're going for happiness. I think we're going for fulfillment.
Yes.
Those two things are very, very different.
I think through fulfillment, you then get happiness. And my thing is when you get fulfillment and you show gratitude, the thing for me, the most powerful thing is gratitude. When you get that fulfillment, and if there's one word or phrase that I've used in my talks, podcasts, anything I do, it's gratitude. And I harp on about it all the time. It's because that is the catalyst to happiness. If you get your fulfillment, you show gratitude for it, you don't start to get ego, big head, and think that somehow you're entitled to it. It will then, over time, lead to that happiness which people seek, which ultimately what people want. If you ask people what they want, they ultimately want happiness, but they associate happiness with having that job, that car, that thing, that body, that six pack, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if you said to them, well, what does happiness even look like to you? They don't know. Oh, I want to be happy. Yeah, but what does that mean? Oh, just happy. Well, what does that mean? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really mean anything. And Owen, I just want to circle back again, because you hit on some really good key points here. And again, I'm so glad I've got my pen and paper in front of me to take some notes on this, because you just dropping absolute bombs here. So we're about level one here, or stage one, was defining your reality. You then mentioned part two of that was pendulums. So my thing with this is, correct me if I'm wrong, so defining your reality is basically understanding the world that you live in, looking and understanding the game of life, that there is rules, understanding what's going on around you. So then you're back in control. Now, pendulums, so I know about pendulums. I know my audience would not know about pendulums, so I want to go there. But essentially, the last podcast I did was about mood hoovers and energy vampires. So if you listen to that episode, all pendulums is a collective group of mood hoovers and energy vampires, and they're called pendulums. So is there anything you want to specifically talk to on pendulums? Because for me, and my understanding of it, is that pendulums essentially knock you off the path to finding your purpose, and they keep you stuck in this socially conditioned reality where you're a puppet and not fulfilling your true potential. Am I correct on that, or is there more depth to that?
Yeah, you're definitely correct. And there's a lot of ways to look at it. Again, this is a model. And, Vadim Zeland is the one who pointed out pendulums in that particular word, right? Like it's also been known as egregores, tulpas, tulkus. Like there's a lot of like Buddhist words and terminologies. I think Christianity would call it demons, right? But the idea is that it's really made up of not some like little, dancing elf or something, but it's more like a collection of thought energy, right? So thought forms. And so what happens is basically, if we broke it down, every single physical object has an energetic equivalent. Every idea also has an energetic equivalent. So the more people that subscribe to that particular idea methodology, the more power and more momentum that idea has in society or object or whatever. So basically, we're building in the energetic world. And so that's why the first part is like, here's what reality is, right? There's two worlds, physical and mental. And the mental world is at the cause and the physical world is at the effect. So the pendulums are actually on the other side of this reality in the dream world, which is synonymous with the mental world. And so that is where, infinity is. So that's the space of variations, the alternative space, infinity, the field. There's so many different terms for that, the Akashic records. And that's where these clusters of thought energy kind of come together and sort of where they operate from. So if the matrix is a real thing, it's made up by pendulums, right? Yep. Banker, post office worker, like all these different things that are kind of like these shiny things that distract us from looking within, right? And ultimately, when you read that book, you realize, we're looking externally for a lot of things. Whereas if we just look internally and really line up the two elements of who we are, heart and mind, then at that point, the pendulums begin to serve you as the idea. So at that point, you've created your own sort of pendulum and it should swing from you as opposed to you swinging from it and I actually have one right here. This is like one that you can ask questions to and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But the idea is like, it swings one way and it swings the other, So anything that we give attention to, whether it's positive or negative, it's creating more momentum. And specifically negative is how the pendulums would control you. So what we want to do is elevate our perspective. If we're down here swinging on it, then we're, at its whim. But if we're up here paying attention higher and higher and higher, then basically we're not being affected by it. And that's what it talks about in the Kabbalion, where, if you can basically go up a level, then you won't be at the whim of reality. So you can see this thing for what it is. You're like, oh, this is a pendulum. It's going to swing this way and then it's going to swing back that way. It's like we had a gas shortage on the East Coast, right?
Yes,
And now everybody's rushing out to buy gas, right? And they're paying $6, $7, $8 a gallon, whatever. Well, if you just wait 5 days, that will swing, and you don't have to panic. It's really just like the way these things, they want more energy, want more attention, right? Like really what we are is we are basically all we are is attention, right? Like that's our tool. We're made of energy. Attention's the tool that we can give or take away. And so where attention goes, energy flows is the Hermetic axiom.
Yes.
So
Yes.
If we're focusing on this, then that's what we're helping to create, little manifestation machines. We're helping to create that. We're helping to put that in motion. If it's a bunch of fear and conspiracy theory, then we're actually helping to bring that into the world as well. And that was something that was really a hard pill for me to swallow. But the pendulums themselves, like, not that they're conscious. I don't think that they are. It doesn't matter because we can't ever know, but I don't think they're conscious. I just think they're collections of energy that resonate at the same frequency. And now we're on this frequency. We're on this ride. We're riding those waves up and down, whatever that vibration is. If that's fear, or if that's, it really doesn't matter. It could be literally anything. The idea that, I
think the biggest thing with this is, for me, the analogy that I use, or that's used about it, is sports teams is the biggest thing for me when people try to understand what a pendulum is. So I used to be a very, very diehard Aston Villa football fan. So again, I give my energy to that team when I'm watching them play. most of the time, they're absolutely fucking shit. Then what happens? My energy goes to that. I'm now in a negative frame of mind. My reality is now shifted based on me watching that sports team. But then if they win, again, my energy then shifts. So I'm giving that team my energy, whether positive or negative. So again, just so people can get some sort of visualization of this and understand what we're talking about, that's what we're going on here. So it's like, you've all got something like that where you give it your energy, either positive or negative, and it affects and disrupts you. And just like I mentioned on the Mood Hoover and Energy Vampire podcast, it then knocks you off course to becoming the best version of you and your purpose. Now, you went into some deep stuff there. And again, I don't quite know if I'm ready to talk about this yet, about the alternative space. Like, so I just want to briefly just briefly go there, and I'm going to move on, because that's
sure.
We could literally talk about that for hours, because that is, once you understand that is like, that is it right there. But what is the alternative space? Can we just have a brief summary of that? Because someone will have heard you say that. And like, what the hell was that you talking about there?
Yeah, it's a weird word. Well, I mean, it's nothing more than someone's word for the possibility of infinity, right? So in physical reality, we're basically living in this dense dream, right, together, that we're sharing, and it's real and it's hard and I can touch it. Mm-hmm. But in the dream world, which is the same synonymous thing as the alternative space, which is infinity, right? It's the mind, let's call it the mind of God, or the Akashic records. It's literally everything that ever existed, will exist, or exists right now. So all the things, everything you can and can't imagine exists already, which is amazing, because that puts you in a position, really, I think, of a lot more power when you think about it that way. It's not that you have to generate this thing and make this thing happen. Dude, it already exists, right? In some form in the mental world. So it's really, at that point, really about finding it, highlighting it, and figuring out how to bring it from the dream space to the physical world, right? And so, there are limits there and rules, and we could talk a lot about that. But to sum it up, infinity is real. Infinity is real, and it exists already. So every single possibility, every single idea, everything, it already exists in some form mentally, in that mental world. So that's really what.
And with this, for people to think that this is a bit of a crazy concept, every single thing in your life, everything, came from that space, because it was a thought. So I'm just going to use the example right now that I've got here. My iPad. Someone thought of that. Mm-hmm. It then became a reality. Mm-hmm. The internet. Someone thought of that, is now reality. The ring light. This foam, someone thought about it, is now reality. Every single thing, this top, this cloth, cotton, everything was a thought. Every single thing was a thought that someone plucked and then turned into reality. And again, once you understand and get your head around that, as you said, it gives you the freedom to understand that you have a choice and you can take control of your life. And this is, for me, the power of meditation. Again, I don't really tend to delve too much into this, but meditation is about just quietening the mind. When the sea is choppy, when things are going crazy, you cannot get any information downloaded. You can't see the wood from the trees. If you can silence your mind, if you can separate yourself from the thoughts, if you can just get you back to you, if you can separate yourself from your thoughts, if you can pull yourself away, it then gives the alternatives flow, alternative space, whatever you want to call it, an opportunity to give you something, that little bump, which then could be your purpose.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Actually, I heard Owen Dan's podcast, and do you know what? Actually, the thing that really, really gets me up in the morning is bringing joy to people's lives. I'm going to go do more of that. But if you're so busy thinking about the football team and how shit they are and how they're awful and they're just multimillionaires running around a football field, like you can't think of that because you're so busy distracted on that. And this is what people aren't told. People aren't told this, and they walk around so inside their own head, and they're so fucking negative and sad and unhappy that they can't actually take control of their life. Owen, this is exactly what I wanted to get out of you today. You were fucking blowing my mind already. So I just want to say thank you. Because I hope my audience is just taking notes here and listening to what Owen's saying, because Owen is giving you gold here. I'm trying to unpick it and pull apart, because I don't think, Owen, you understand what you're actually saying and how most people won't quite have resonated with it. So I'm trying to just pick it apart a little bit. So the final thing with this is, as in like the stages that you've said, so you've got the reality, managing your energy with the pendulum stuff. And the third one was said, figuring out who you are. Yeah. This for me was a game changer, figuring out who I actually am. And you said about some writing exercises. Now, again, I want people to be working with you. So don't give everything away. But what kind of writing exercises are we talking about here that people could potentially do right now to try and get some form of idea about who they actually are?
Well, first and foremost, I'll say I've shared this. I'll share this because I want people to find their purpose. Like, it's in my best interest, it's in all of our best interests for people to really connect to who they really are. So whether they work with me or not, hey, if they can find this, then that's fine. I don't want to dangle a carrot in front of anybody's face. But I would say, and I learned this from another teacher, God, and now I've forgotten his name, which is strange, but I can picture his face. But anyway, the first exercise that I would recommend is to sit down for 30 minutes and just write what you think your purpose might be. Okay. And just brainstorm. Doesn't matter. There are no wrong answers. Just write down what you think it might be. It could be anything. And so just start writing those down and writing them down. And when you find something that really stops you in your tracks, I say, I cry easy though. So I say, when you write something that makes you cry, that's your purpose.
Or like goosebumps or something, just something where you get something from the universe. Just there'll be some sort of sign, like your pen just falls on the floor or something.
Yeah, you're just like, whoa, that's it, Yeah. And it will happen. Like, I have yet to hear back from anybody. They either didn't try the exercise or they tried it and it worked. As far as that goes. So I was actually on the phone with a friend of mine the other day, and he was having a lot of pain points around it. And, I kind of coached him through a little bit and just asked some more questions. I asked what exercises he tried. I'd asked, just that kind of couple other things. And then he sent me an email back. I got the next morning that he was out to dinner with his partner, and the waitress came over, and she had like a little person on a pin, Mm-hmm. And he starts like playing with it, and, they're having fun or whatever. And then they give each other a high five because she had a pin with another little man on it or whatever. And he said, like, it just clicked for him. And I can't remember what the phrase was. I mean, I wouldn't share it anyway, just because I feel like that's kind of, that's up to him.
Yeah.
But he was like, man, I figured it out. That's what it is. It's like so simple, and it seems like really mystical and out there to think of, but I don't think that that's for most people the case. I think it's something that's very accessible, very much who they are, and very simple and straightforward. Like, again, my first layer of purpose is to bring people joy. So if I'm making content in a way that's not in that spirit, then it's not me. It's not who I am, and it doesn't resonate with people. So the same thing I think is going to be true as other people sit down and discover, what it is that they really have to offer. I really think it's also like a bit of a tether to the universe. It really connects us, and gives us a sense of identity. The postmodern philosophers, like, they have all these like ideas about identity and how you have no identity. You only see yourself as others see you and all this shit. I think it's all bullshit. And I think that the truth is we can really like reduce it down to like who we really are, what our purpose is, and what we're here to do. And that's a really simple, for most people, phrase, an idea of like really who they are and what they can contribute in many different roles or functions. Mm-hmm. So wherever they're at, they can do it. I can bring people joy in the grocery line. You know what I mean? I can make a joke to the cashier and make her feel better about herself. I can do it on stage as a comic. I can do it, on a podcast or on a YouTube video. But whatever it is that I do, I want to bring my essence to that thing, and understanding what it is by sitting down and just literally just thinking about it, brainstorming. Take 30 minutes. Try if nothing comes, cool. Take a break, walk away. Come back, sit down, write it again. I have the short ebook on my website, and that's the exercise that I give in there. And it was Steve Pavlina that I learned that from, actually. Steve Pavlina. I don't know that he does self-help stuff anymore. I think he's like into kinky BDSM or something now, which, hey, whatever floats your, maybe he figured it out.
He found his purpose. He found his purpose. That's now his thing. And listen, he's bringing joy, then he's found his purpose. But I think the interesting thing with this is that you put on there is, again, the power of the reticular activating system, which, again, I talk about all the time on the podcast. And again, numerous guests have mentioned it. It's the mind and the heart. The heart knows. The heart knows what your true purpose is in life. The problem is the brain's too busy. So if you can get them connected, which we spoke about before, that is then the power of this. So if you can actually take a step back and say to your brain, right, and subconscious, and just be like, right, brain dump to me all the things that could be my purpose, you allow it to flow. And then, as you said, what happened to your friend? If it doesn't come to you, guess what's running in the background? What's running in the background is your brain thinking, well, what is my purpose? And again, that movie, Soul. You've seen the movie Soul?
I haven't seen it, but I want to.
Mate,
I know. I need to see
Owen,
it. I know. I need to see it.
Next time we speak, you need to watch that movie because that's
I promise I will.
So again, the movie Soul is essentially all about this lost soul just trying to find its purpose. And it comes into Earth trying to find its purpose. And it's absolutely incredible. And again, essentially, there's a big fish and a small fish. This little story in there. And basically, the small fish goes to the big fish. It says, "Excuse me, I'm trying to find the ocean." And then the big fish goes, "This is the ocean." And the small fish goes, "Oh, this is just water." And again, it's what it is. It's basically people are trying to search for this thing when it's right in front of them. But the problem is they're so caught up in here, they don't allow themselves to listen to here, and it's right there in front of them. Mm-hmm. And I just want to pick up on that, and because with that, it's the power of, I say to people all the time, just write things down. Just allow yourself the time. I'm too busy. If you're too fucking busy to take control of your fucking life, you need to give your head a wobble, because this is the problem. People like to make excuses. Like, and this is the thing, when me and you, again, when we're in this dark place, like when you're in that place and someone offers you that torch to shine a fucking light, you take that fucking torch. Mm-hmm. If you don't want the torch, don't start fucking telling me you're in the dark, because you fucking aren't. And I think this is also where I want to go with this. Why do you think people then sometimes play the victim role? And I know this is hard and it's a bit of a deep question, but that's something that really bothers me sometimes when people claim that they are struggling. You then give them I know it's not quite this easy. I know, I'm very well aware of that. Like I always say, when I was in that dark place, if I'd come back to talk to me, I'd have told me to go fuck myself. So I do get that, which is why I'm talking to you about this, because I want to understand, why would I do that? Why would I literally tell me to go fuck myself? Why do you think that we do that? And why do you think people do struggle so much with this, like, and playing the victim role?
I think it's addictive. I think emotions are highly addictive chemicals. They're just like things squirting in our brain. We get used to it, and then we expect that. We get into our comfort zone, and we don't want to leave. We're also not letting our heart lead the way, and that's the big thing. The mind is like the co-pilot, you know, and the heart is really meant to be in the driver's seat. And most of us live in our head first, especially in the West, and we're like, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't, because X, Y, and Z, and so-and-so says, and I learned in school, and XXX, you know, a bajillion reasons. How much can the mind backwards rationalize? All the way through the alternative space. That's how much, like, all the way. So our heart really does need to lead. And that's why I think, you know, sit down and key off of that. Like, what is it? And another thing, I think people are scared to fucking death to really know who they are. And I think it comes down to throwing your hat over the fence at some point, right? And that's scary as hell to get out of your comfort zone. Not that you need to take a giant leap. That's not needed. But it's like, for instance, like, it's like, well, I want to go to this conference that's in South Dakota. And I've been dragging my feet. This is me talking personally, dragging my feet. Well, you know, it's like, money, a place to stay, whatever, right? All this stuff. Well, if I just buy the fucking plane ticket, I'll go. I'll find the money. Yeah. I'll find the place to stay. You know what I mean? So taking that first thing to kind of throw yourself into the pool, you know.
The universe, you'll end up saying a random friend of yours, oh, by the way, I'm going to this conference thing. Do you want to jump on? And then you're just like, oh, I've just booked a ticket. Oh, do you want to go halves on a hotel room? Or one of your friends there just randomly reaches out saying, oh, Owen, I see you coming to South Dakota. Do you want to just crash on my couch?
Yep.
And I'm so glad you said, oh, mate, I cannot tell you how much I love you. You are unbelievable. Because with this, it's that small step that people need to take. People think that they've got this and they have to do something crazy. They think they literally have to jack in their job, like just leave their family and kids and stuff and just go and live on a mountain and just meditate for years. You just need to take a small step and trust the universe. Trust yourself, which again, I did a whole podcast on that. But I think we've lost the ability to actually trust ourselves. We all know deep down what we're doing, whether it's right or wrong. Even if we don't know our purpose, we kind of know this isn't right for me. Just take that small step and just see what happens. See what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Take the small step, see what happens, and you ultimately you'll start to learn. Like I said, you know, when I first read Transforming, I was like, I don't believe half this shit, because I didn't. you know? But then when you start to put it into practice and you apply it, you're like, oh shit, this actually does work. And then your confidence grows, and your confidence grows in the form in that particular model. And you start to see that the universe really is here to support you. You really are here for a reason. And at that point, you start to see exactly how it works. So now I know that if I just make my arrangements and start that process and get that ball rolling, everything will happen as it needs to happen, you know. At the way that sort of the infinity flows into reality is that we're presented with options, and we get to choose from those options. And basically we choose from the quantum level, positive or negative. This is good. This is bad. This is good. This is bad. And the more we choose this is bad, the more we go into that downward spiral of victimhood. And the more we choose, hey, you know, and so there's a little nuance here. It's not that anything that happens to you is just automatically positive. I don't want to give people that impression, because that's not true. You can have a sucky situation. It's okay to say this sucks. But if you will look for the advantage in it, if you look for the positive, you can find the positive. And so there's so many variables. We don't know how the universe works. I mean, our mind wants to process all the variables. But if you think about any goal you've ever accomplished, it never happened the way you thought in your mind that it would in that linear progression. You're like, well, I'm going to call Joe and he's going to, you know, tell Sarah that I would be a really good comedian on this show. And then you call him and he doesn't answer his phone. And you're like, you know, then you give up. Well, I mean, no, it's not about that. I mean, it's okay to have that idea. It's okay to call Joe, call him, but let it go when things don't go exactly in linear fashion the way that your stupid mind thinks it should, because your heart knows. And the other part, you know, you'll have another opportunity, and then you'll bump into Sarah in the grocery line or something and be like, oh, you know, I called Joe. I talked to him about, you know, going on this show or whatever. She'll be like, oh, really? You know, like blah, 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 blah. It will just never happen the way that your mind thinks it should. You know, it just doesn't.
Because you can't conceive it.
Yeah. And we're leading with that mind so often because we've got this idea, you know, and back to like purpose and being on purpose and intention is like whenever we want something, we desire something, there's all this manifestation law of attraction stuff. It's like the more you beam desire and wanting at something, the more you're just pushing it away from you. You know, like you are not, it's so hard to get that thing when you want it so bad, right? Like I think about like, if you have a crush on somebody and you like hit them up 45 times on a text message, are they going to respond to you? Hell no. Yeah. You creep, you know, it's just not going to work.
That's where I'm going wrong. That's why I'm single. But I need to do on the dating podcast.
I mean, I think dating, I've got to say, I've got to make a distinction, you know, people are people with wills. You know, when we're talking about objects and goals and things like that, I think it's, you know, a little bit more. Yeah. So I'll stick with that as an example. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the idea is that the more that we radiate like desire is like the other part of desire, the other coin of it is doubt. The more you desire something, the more you also doubt that you can have it. So most people are coming from this place where they think they really want something and they're creating a bunch of desire, which is like extra energy. And then that is being battled by doubt. They don't deserve it. They don't believe they deserve it. That's why they want it so bad. But if you're on purpose and you have an intention, you're just like, it's on. It just is what it is. It's this way, and that's how it's going to be. There's not all this fluttering.
Yeah, this is mine.
Yeah.
I deserve this. I'm just going after it.
Yeah.
Like one foot in front of the other.
It's calm. Yeah. It's not, you're not freaking out. You're not, you know, you don't have to hit anybody over the head with anything or push them out of your way. It's just, you just simply like take the next step toward that thing. You're like, I'm settled. I know where I'm at. I'm comfortable here. And then I'm just going to go forward. So you don't have all this like this weather system, you know, like that's how I kind of think about it.
I love this. And I think I've told one person this story. There's only a few people that really know this. So you just sort of hit a nail on the head here. So there's a local TV series here called Knots TV, which is basically a local TV channel. And I pitched them an idea before I started this podcast. And my idea was to basically to interview some of the most amazing people on their set, have it all sorted, and basically have it as like a help people sort their lives out. And this is when I just started on this journey. I knew some stuff. And I pitched them the idea. I tried to talk to someone. And basically, it never came to fruition. And I was a bit like, oh, okay, fuck you. And I kind of was a bit like, oh, right. And then a couple of months later, started this podcast. And it's only really now, And I'm literally talking about a week ago. I'd forgot that I fully had the business plan of what I wanted to do with this thing. I got it put in front of people, and they basically never called me back. There's one guy who was like, contact this person, never called me back. It's only weird that I realized that I'm now actually creating what I wanted to with Knots TV. And there's only one person that I have actually wanted on my podcast. Wanted on this Knots TV thing that I haven't had on my podcast yet. He's actually on my board, and I'm speaking to him hopefully in the next month. But I had vision in my head. There's 3 people I wanted to interview specifically on this Knots TV thing I wanted to create. And I've literally manifested that. But as you sort of said, I couldn't have predicted this was going to happen. And now I've got a videographer there. I'm literally creating this TV show that I wanted, and I got pied off. I've literally created it myself. And the fact this has all happened, and again, I've got this amazing videographer now. There's, again, literally the universe just created to a random bloke that just messaged me on Instagram. Hey, do you want to jump on my podcast? On the back of this bus in the middle of a farm, and now look at where we're at. Mate, it's fucking nuts. If you'd have told me that's the path that led me to where I am now, wouldn't have believed you.
Right.
But it's because, again, we talk about finding that purpose. What's my purpose? I know my purpose, to help as many people as possible to not feel as shit as I felt. The universe knows that. The universe has provided. It is absolutely bizarre. So I really wanted to pinpoint that and use my own example, as you did, so people to understand that once you understand this stuff, don't try and take control and don't try and force it. Just be true to what you're trying to create, and the universe will provide it, and it will happen. Like, I just wanted to put my own spin on that, because to sort of back up what you're saying there, because as you said, when you hear this stuff for the first time, it sounds nuts. It sounds a bit like, well, what do you mean? Surely if I want it more, then I'll get it quicker. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. It's like that thing, if you've got flour and you hold it tight, you'll crush it. If you just hold it lightly, it will grow and blossom. Exact same principle. It's only really now when you go down this rabbit hole, you see these quotes and you understand what they mean a bit more now. You're like, that's what that quote means. And Owen, I want to ask you some more, just 3 final questions that I normally ask most of my guests, just to sort of really add some value to the audience. So you're like me. You don't ever claim to be perfect. Like, you still have bad days. Again, I spoke about when I actually spoke to you before, I'd actually had a nap literally 15 minutes before I came on your podcast because I didn't feel very good. So in the place where you are now, where you've got your purpose, you're on your mission, and you are, quote unquote, smashing life, what is your biggest challenge that you struggle with right now?
Well, first of all, I wish my barber was in town, because I'm feeling a little, it's hot. It's getting hot, but yeah, my struggle is travel. Because I'm asked to be places, and I'd like to be places, and it's difficult to kind of like work from home and travel, schedule everything, stay up to beat. I have to drive a lot, so I can't be on my phone or like on the computer. With that, and then relationship stuff for me. I'm a single guy. I've been single for a while, and that's something that I've been working a lot on over the past few years, because I have a history of just very unhealthy romantic relationships. So
me too, mate. We need to do 3 different separate podcasts, because I feel like I could give you a list of my fucking that.
Yeah, my parents, like everyone kind of has their own idea or depiction of love, and it's kind of, where did you grow up? What was that like? What was your house like? And people, generally speaking, until they can do that work, kind of relate that as that thing. And so my parents, very erratic, I don't know how my mom's not Latin. She seemed like it, but yeah, basically, I'm undoing patterns there. That's one of my biggest things that I'm working on, as far as, putting myself in a place where I can be, a solid partner, and I have my own mental stuff too, like inadequacies, feeling imposter syndrome, and then, and nerves and stuff too, doing comedy and that kind of thing. It's fucking hard. Like, comedy is hard, but speaking to like what you just mentioned about the TV thing, it's kind of interesting. There's one of the chapters in that Transurfing book is called Forward to the Past. Yes. I love that chapter a lot. And I feel that very same way. When I was a kid, I wanted to be on Saturday Night Live, the sketch show. And I just loved it so much, but I never pursued that when I was young. And people would tell me, they're like, oh, you should be a comedian, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, I'm not funny enough. I'll never be able to do that. And so I pursued baseball and pendulums, like everything my friends did, right? Like the cool stuff that everybody else thought was cool, not the thing that I wanted to really do. Like improv comedy, right? But now I found myself in a position where I have like a group of friends who are incredibly talented and amazing in what they do. Some they're comedians, and then there are also people who do production stuff, and I'm able to like work with them and do our own sort of thing. It's like I wouldn't want to be on Saturday Night Live at this point. I wouldn't necessarily want to be on a TV station at this point, because look, man, you're limited like as far as your creative and what you can talk about.
Yeah, look at Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan had loads. He had that big thing. It sounded amazing. Got this amazing money for this podcast, but then his creative freedom. He had episodes removed, and yes, there's hundreds of his episodes, but the fact he's had some removed, he's lost his creative freedom and the whole purpose that made him unique and why people signed up to him. So
exactly,
I completely dig that. I completely understand that. And I just wanted to say again, thank you for being honest and transparent about that, because this is the thing. Like, people see me and think I've got my shit together, and I do. 100% I do got my shit together. But I still have bad days and still have things I'm working on. And relationships specifically, as you alluded to, is basically working on me so I can be the best version of me in that relationship. That's one thing where I've always struggled. But I feel like you have to do the other groundwork first for then that to flourish. So I'm completely with you on that. And that's something I'm very open with. Do you have any habits or like routines that you do, like morning or evening routines and stuff that kind of help you stay grounded at all? Because that's something that I talk about a lot, and it does help me. And I know if I don't do that, my mental health suffers and struggles. Is there anything that you have specifically like that as well that help you stay in this good headspace? Yeah,
I absolutely do have routines. And I just want to say that there's so much work. I don't think this work ever ends. We could do a whole podcast on things that I, am struggling with or trying to improve. That's never going to end, I don't think. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That's a sign of growth. That's a sign of development. And so, like, we're not here to be perfect. We're here to learn. And that's so much fun. And part of that is gratitude itself, and the ability to appreciate like the journey. For me, the routines that I have in place are there to support my purpose, right? There's a book called The One Thing. And the idea of that is that there is that one thing, and that's where I put my purpose, right? And so every single thing that I do revolves around that one thing, unless I'm just, and even if I am resting, right? Like, you got to rest too. But like, if I'm usually in the morning, I write, but before that, I lay in bed and I do a gratitude practice. I don't write things down when I do gratitude, but I do feel that feeling, and I feel it very strongly. What I've learned is, and you can reference this via Joe Dispenza and many other people's works, is that our heart is like fucking powerful. That's the electrical chakra center, and you can just blast good vibes out of that thing if you know how to use it. And it's really about attention. Where attention goes, energy flows. So in the morning, I start at just saying, thank you to God, basically. And I start to generate that feeling. And sometimes I'll think about it. I can spark it in many ways, right? Like, I could think about someone that I love, or an animal that I've had, or something like that just makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And then I focus on that feeling of warm and fuzzy. And the more that I focus on it, the more it just kind of grows and grows and grows and grows. And so that's the first thing that I do before I even get out of bed. I just lay in bed 5-10 minutes and think about somebody or something that I love, and generate that sort of energy in the morning. And then I get up, and usually, I break routine too. That's another thing that I do. I like to break routine, and then I get up and I usually will write. As a comedian, you got to write. It's a thing you got to do. So I'll go through. I've got a notebook, and I'll usually bike down to the coffee shop and have a coffee and write for an hour, and then I'll kind of get my day going. So those are the kind of two things. When it comes to routines, I would like to encourage people to keep it as simple as possible. It doesn't have to take long. It doesn't have to be an hour. You don't have to do 15 things where you're so busy being spiritual that you forgot to meditate. You know what I mean? You don't have to, I don't have time, like, I know the feeling, the struggle's real.
Or you wake up at 5 a.m. The 5 a.m. club, fuck's sake. Like, this is the thing, that one size fits all. People, I can't do 5 a.m. I've tried it multiple times. It just doesn't work for me. I can do 6 o'clock, so I do 6 a.m. So I'm part of the 6 a.m. club. I'm not going to do the 5 a.m. club. It's as simple as that. But I feel like people put it on you. Oh, if you don't wake up at 5 a.m., you're a loser. Fuck you, dickhead. Like, I'm fine. Right. Like, you're half asleep, and that first hour you're awake, you're not productive. You ain't doing shit. Like, I can wake up 6 o'clock, have my coffee. I'm fucking on that game. So, yeah, I'm so glad you said that. And again, there's not one size fits all. When I talk about it on this podcast, it's like I just give people the guides, and they sort of go into that. Final thing. What's one bit of advice that you would give to someone right now that feels stuck and out of control in their life?
I would ask them to reflect on a time when they were really happy and ask some questions about that time. Where were they? Who were they with? What were they doing? What was on their mind? And really just sit and think about that. Live that situation. And from there, like, our memories are fucking powerful, right? Like, that's why I wake up in the morning and I just think about, like, I can think about my friend Ben or whatever and how awesome he is, right? And I'll just think of him, and it'll make me feel warm and fuzzy. Even if I, didn't do even if I didn't wake up at 5 a.m., like, I'll still beat myself to death because I woke up an hour late or whatever. No. I mean, sit down, think of a time when you were very happy, you were very fulfilled. Feel what that feels like, and ask yourself a few questions about that. Why were you happy? Who were the people around you? What were you doing? And how can you recreate that? Is there a way? I totally understand the whole, like, hey, cheer up, mate. Like, it's like, fuck you. When you're in that state, like, you're in that state, and we do get addicted to those emotions. That's just how it is. But if we can take that and just be like, well, there was a time, was there ever a time? Was there a time when you really felt you were at the right place at the right time? When you really felt like in control, when you felt like you were in the pocket creatively, or whatever it is that you want to feel, right? How have you felt like that in the past? Bring that into mind and start asking yourself, because like you said earlier, when you ask that question, and this goes 100% into joke writing, is like, when you ask yourself that question, your subconscious mind is searching for the answer, and it will find it eventually, right? It will ultimately find that. So you don't have to answer the question immediately, but ask the question. It's like, if you have a premise, it's just kind of battles on your mind. And then one day, bam, like, it hits you, and you like, oh shit, so you don't have to have that. You don't need to rush it, but just ask yourself at a deep, deep level, like, when did I feel, complete or satisfied, or like I was on my purpose, or, kind of whatever that is, if you're stuck, and feel that feeling. You're allowed to feel it. Like, it's your fucking birthright to feel good in your body. I don't care what's going on out here. You don't have to succumb to any of this shit. It's your birthright to feel it. When I was in that conspiracy wormhole, that was every day for me, was just like, like, I could just barely get out of bed. Everybody had power over me, right? Like, it was terrible. But even if that were true, you still don't have to feel the effects of it. And so, going back to those pendulums, that's really what they feed on, is that emotional energy. And that attention in that sense. You can still call a spade, but you don't have to, like, be drained of your good energy. That's for you, and you deserve it.
I could not have put that any better myself. I love asking that question. And Owen, I just want to say thank you, like, from the bottom of my heart, for coming on and just being you and being everything that I knew you would be. It's been absolutely awesome. And genuinely, I know my audience would have taken value from this. Even I'm going to go back and listen to this again, because, which I do anyway, but I mean, really taking some notes there, because just the way you articulate things, which is how I originally connected you in the first place. I just love how you articulate things. You take these big, crazy subjects, and I love how you articulate and talk about them. And you're just very, very real. You're very, very raw, and you're very, very honest. And I know my audience will appreciate that. Where can people find out more information about you? I'm going to put the links in the show notes, and again, it'll be there on the screen on YouTube. But where can people find out more information about you?
Sure. They can go to my website, bootsygreenwood.com. And there's links to pretty much everywhere there. I'm pretty active on Instagram and YouTube, and my handle's the same across, because my name is Owen Hunt, and that's a famous character on a TV show here in America called Grey's Anatomy. And so if you Google that, they say if you want to hide a dead body, put it on the second page of a Google search. I'm on like page 75 because of that guy. So I went with my stripper name, which was a cat that we had, and the street you grew up on. That's the formula. So Bootsy Greenwood is kind of so, and nobody else has that name. So, so if you Google that, you should be able to find me. And I'd love to talk to anybody who's interested in learning more about, waking up to their purpose and doing that type of thing. Like I said, I'm not trying to withhold things. I really want people to embody their true, it's in all our best interests. So
100%.
Yeah. So I just appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me on. I had a blast yet again. I was so excited when I got back home and I was like, Daniel James is on the calendar tomorrow. That's amazing.
It's just bizarre how quickly it's come about. And just, like I said, just how everything's just panned out. And the fact that like, so you're now my first video guest as well. So people can actually see you as you are as well. It's just that whole thing about it and how it's all come about. Just honestly, absolutely incredible. And like I said, I am forever grateful to sort of have you in my life. And again, I know my audience now would appreciate it, everything you've imparted on them, and again, be giving you a follow and stuff like that. Honestly, Owen, thank you ever so much. And like I said, I'll be chatting to you again very soon.
Dude, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm around. Just let me know if you need anything, dude. I'm happy to help.
Absolutely. Take care, Owen.
All right.